Hey everybody, welcome to Pealed Back's live conversation with series. I'm your host, Gene Bernier, the enjoyment coach, and on this week's episode 17, we have Kevin Bluin on with us. Kevin is the president of Charitable Resource Group, and he's also your personal health coach. Charitable Resource Group's mission is to unleash passion by representing charity partners with integrity, creativity, and focus. Kevin and his team develop unique campaigns around fundraising and marketing strategies that result in improved exposure and the bottom line for their clients. They're out to create positive change in the world. As well, if that isn't enough, Kevin's passion for improving people's lives through hard work and discipline has resulted in him becoming your personal health coach. And this has allowed for numerous client successful health transformation stories. With Kevin's guidance, his clients are taking control of their lives and stories as they work towards their healthy future. So that all said, Kevin, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Gene. Glad to be here. Thank you.
Oh, I'm very happy to have you on today. So, as always, I love to read the intros, but it's more impactful to hear from yourself. Like we said, kind of starting off is like everyone wants to hear a little bit about your journey, who you are, and what is it that you do outside of that write-up?
So I guess where do we begin with the write-up or the stuff outside the write-up? Well, I guess, yeah, we'll start with just kind of a little, I guess, backstory on me. So I grew up in California, actually, in Sacramento, the capital, great capital. And growing up, I was the oldest of four boys, single mom, very, very, very poor growing up. There was never there always was it too much month at the end of your money, I guess is a good way to put it.
Yeah.
So really at the age of 11, out of necessity, I actually started my first business, cutting the neighborhood yards. I literally remember it like it was yesterday. I just got razzed. I think it was fifth grade, horribly for the shoes I was wearing. And that's all we could afford. And they were like 10-year-old model. So anyway, I started cutting yards, made a bunch of flyers, and literally went around and splattered 500 homes. And it was really pretty cool. Actually, that for the next 4 years provided a decent, little side hustle for a 11 to 15-year-old. So, after that, when I was 18, graduated high school, moved to Texas. And it was really kind of an interesting story. I had a phenomenal job opportunity right out of high school. And the company I started working for out here, after 6 months, went out of business, which was crazy. They were a national company. And so I stumbled, sitting around my house, 18, 19-year-old kid, and I read this ad for a fundraising job. And I'm like, well, I don't know. We'll go see what it is. But I think it'd be kind of cool to help some charities. Like they were raising money for Shriners. And I really liked what the Shriners do and stuff like that. And anyway, my first day on the job, it was part-time. The owner of the company walks up behind me, I guess was listening to my calls and was like, hey, you need to work here full time. And I was like, okay. And so that's kind of how it all started. And, Gene, I tell you, I grinded 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., Monday through Friday, Saturday mornings, 9 to 1 for years. Cold calling, $10 an hour. You know what I mean? Eventually went into management. When I started with that company, I think we had 12 employees. And when I left, 10 years later, we had over 200 employees. And so, yeah. And so I just, I got tired of a lot of stuff. And after some praying and talking with my wife at the time, we decided we wanted to start our own company, raise money for charities we were passionate about. And so I literally, I left Dallas, Texas and moved to Houston. I've got a lot of family in the Houston area and started CRG, Charitable Resource Group, back in 2012. And yeah, so it's been good, man. And then we were growing. It was really funny just kind of how that whole thing happened, Gene. I built cubicles, my friend, with my grandfather. We went to Home Depot, sanded some doors down, stained them, and threw them up. We had a 400 square foot office. I mean, like eight cubicles in there. It was like sardines, right? And it was nuts. Humble beginnings. And in 2014, a year and a half, 2 years in, we expanded and went up to 3,000 square foot office and had over 30 chairs, stuff like that. And we grew it up to roughly 40, 45 employees, and then COVID-19 hits.
Yeah.
Right. And so we, fire marshal literally came into our office, Gene, and was like, hey, you guys can't work. Like you're not allowed to have, this many people, whatever. So I'm sitting there like, okay. And all of a sudden, this business I'd built for the last, 8-9 years, just all of a sudden was like, we're done. And I literally lost all of my employees overnight. And we immediately just started scrambling. And I built, over this COVID stint, we got rid of the brick and mortar call center. And it actually worked out beautifully, Gene. Our lease, our 5-year lease literally ended in August. Right. And so it was just perfect timing, and built out all the IT to go remote. So now we're back up to about 30 employees. We're 100% remote. They work from home. We've got employees from North Dakota to Illinois to Florida to here. So there's no more limit on brick and mortar, and, we can hire anybody and provide a nice job for a lot of people.
Right. I was about to say that probably opens up the door for a lot of additional staff members that you never would have when you were just constrained to your brick and mortar, right? Be like, oh, we need people to be here with asses in these chairs, versus we just need the right people on the right bus, and they may be all over the country, or heck, be all over the world potentially. In that,
you never know. Yeah, you never know. So yeah, it's beautiful, and we're not limited to the 30 chairs that we had. I mean, we can literally. We can handle right now like 500 employees with our current server levels and stuff like that.
Well, that's pretty impressive, and just be able to take that and have that hit. When COVID happened, it was like this great punch to the gut that everybody got to feel, and it hit some people really hard, to the point where you're like, did we just lose our entire company after 9 years? And now to be looking at it going, oh, we could be stronger than we've ever been.
Amen. Well, that's really the definition, Gene, I think of heroes, right? Every one of us has a hero inside of us, but it doesn't get unleashed until the circumstances demand it. Like, what are you doing when times get tough, right? And that's when you either show up or you don't.
Yeah. Oh, I 100% agree, right? And people are like, oh, why am I getting this challenge? It's just like, it's not a bad thing. It's calling out to you to stand up, because it believes you're ready to handle this. Prove it right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Unleash it. So that's incredible. And obviously you support charities because it's in the name. So as this, as COVID has gone on, how's it changed the way that you guys deliver your strategies?
Yeah. So one of the main things is really with, when you're doing marketing for nonprofits or really marketing in general, you have to be very clear on your message, right? And what it is you're trying to do. So with all of our charity partners, it's like, okay, we're in this unprecedented, global time that we've never experienced. Like, what are you doing to make a difference with our current reality? Like, the way you've operated and the way you've done things in the past, you have to evolve. And I mean, Jeff Bezos he says it best. He really does. In business, right? If you're not evolving, you're dying.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line. So that's one of the things is we've also helped restructure a lot of their giving programs and given them new ideas and insight. And, hey, we're a breast cancer charity. Maybe we did this, but now we need to alter it a little bit to do that, And so just giving them that flexibility and trying to, open their minds to different impacts they can create has been a lot of fun.
Well, that's really awesome. And obviously the team's responding to that. How has been the shift from going from a bricks and mortar to a remote team? Because that takes two totally different leadership styles.
Yeah, so it really does. So the first thing is you have to have a good structure, right? And that's really with anything in life. If you don't have the foundation to build upon, the house is going to collapse. Okay. Right. And so, when it came to that, we really, before we started this massive hiring push, we ran ads, Jane, and we had 10,000 people apply in a month.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I mean, nuts. Well, you have to have the structure in place before you do that, to handle everything. So, we built out a beautiful series of training videos. We've built out, different onboarding techniques, like a whole portal they'll log into. We've done, we've revamped our managing, right, and how they listen in on calls and how they contact. We've built out a whole communication network now because, you know, that's the one thing with call center world in sales is you got to have high energy, right? If you're going to be, you know, passionate and energetic about your product, that's the only way you're going to sell it. Like if you don't give a shit about it, like nobody else is going to care, right? So, you know, when you're in the call center setting and you got the music going and everybody's high-fiving and you just got this beautiful energy, it's so easy to keep it going. And if you're having a bad day, right, pull yourself out of it. Well, it's totally different with COVID because we're so isolated. So how can we still bring that live atmosphere environment to these people, you know, in their bedroom, at their kitchen table, wherever they're calling from? And so that was what a big hurdle. But actually, there's a, I don't know if you're familiar with Facebook Workplace, but yeah, that fantastic tool there. So you know, just trying to bring in that family, still kind of your at work feeling was, I think, the biggest hurdle that we're starting to accomplish. That's making the biggest impact. One of the biggest impacts.
Yeah. Well, it's that working on ourselves component of it, right? Is a lot of that has to change because you're right. The isolation and stuff, like it's different. Like, you know, I'm working in my basement. You're at a home office right now. Like the energy can shift really easy. And when you're in it, it's so hard to realize that you're actually take that step back and go, oh, what do I need to shift? Like, do I need to like do myself a self high five? Is it time to do like a little like mindset reset with some dancing, or do I need to change the music? Or do I have any music on? Like, when's the last time I connected? Like, all those things start to now come into play, like so much more than, you know, the world of remote work, I think, ever has.
Well, and you nailed it. But the first step is being cognizant of that, right? Yeah. We get so zoned into whatever work we're doing, you know, you got to take a break. You got to take a reset. You know what I mean? Yeah. 5 minutes, you know, do a couple sit-ups, right? Walk around the house, whatever, change your scenery, just step outside, you know, but being cognizant is the first thing, Gene, realizing, hey, I've got to make my environment right.
Yeah. Well, because we are a product of our environment, right? 100%. So, like, and especially if you're doing like sales calls and marketing calls, like you're right. Can you imagine like somebody sitting there with their body language all like this? Hi. You're not interested. Not surprised. Click on to the next one versus, hey, how you doing? Maybe that's a little too high energy right off.
No, I love it. I'm going to hire you. That was great. You're probably too expensive though, right?
Talk afterwards, right? Like, but being just being aware of just even those simple things. Like some people haven't done the self-training and the self-work to even think about that, right? Like so many of us get tied up into the, oh, it's the words. Be like, that's like 7% of the communication, right? Like 100%. Body language, tone, like all those, like that ends up being like 93%. Like if you don't got that right, the words mean nothing. They're going to remember how you made them feel at the end of the day.
And that's something, I mean, it's so cliche. I mean, you've heard it a million times, but I say it like literally every day to my guys is, look, it's not what you say, you know, it's how you say it. Like, I don't care if you mess the script up and you say a few words off, like it's all good, but do it with some energy, some pride. You know what I mean? Like if you screw up, but screw up, like, yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Own that. Don't beat yourself up. Yeah, it's 100%. And you kind of need it when you're doing sales and marketing. Like that's just part of it, is like you're trying to get somebody else excited about what you're passionate about. And depending on how many times they've already been touched by that organization, you may be talking to them for the first time and you've got like this uphill battle of now all of a sudden be like, got you on the phone, we're going to have this conversation. So we're either going to have a really good conversation or I'm already dreading it, right? Like, no, like go have some fun with it, regardless of what happens. Be like, they hang up on you, great. That means you get to pick up the phone right away to have your next conversation. How lucky are you? It's all those reframes, right?
Well, yeah, and you really have to be the energy you want to attract, right? Like, you ever see a depressed person at church or the grocery store or whatever, you're at a function, a social event, you just see that guy in the corner that's obviously just dark clouds over him. Like, you're not excited to go talk to him. Okay. Like, you're like, okay, I'm going to go this way. You know what I mean? And because that's what he's attracting. Yeah. All right. But the person that's bubbly and, hey, Gene, I'm so glad you're here, man. Welcome. Like, you just gravitate towards them. So you have to be the energy you want to attract.
Yeah, it's that, people might find it funny, but it's like we do emit, our bodies are emitting energy constantly. We have an energetic flow coming from us. So what vibration are we going to be putting out there? And you're right. Like when you see that guy with the dark clouds over him, it's almost like reverse magnets, right? You're just like, no, I'm just going to like bounce off and go away. Be like, I don't want to feel like that right now. Versus being like the happy-go-lucky one who's like out there on the dance floor bouncing away, pulling everybody in and having a great old time. It's a choice. Yeah. It does come down.
But that's one thing I've actually been working on is how can I get better at different areas of my life, and really like I do a lot of meditation, a lot of, if you saw my morning's ritual, you'd be like, dude, that's insane.
Let's talk about it.
Okay, we can get to that, sure. But one of the things I've really made it a point to do is when I do see that guy in the corner, Gene, if I try to make eye contact with him and just smile. A smile is like the universal language. People know when you smile, right? They just know it, right? And so, getting out of my comfort zone, and because normally that's very uncomfortable just to go talk, like I don't just talk to random people, right? It's kind of just uncomfortable. Well, you got to get comfortable being uncomfortable if you want to be successful.
100% in agreement with you there. It's like the best rewards, it's cliche, but the best rewards are outside of your comfort zone, right? And you just have to get used to living there. And I love the fact that you're like, oh, how am I going to impact? If I just go give that guy a smile, what happens? Well, maybe he starts to smile back. Like it's, you said you got kids. I got kids as well. And it's like, oh, one of them are grumpy or something. Be like, try to get to their eye level and they're looking away. And then you're just smiling and they're not looking at you. And you can see that little smirk coming up out the corner. They don't want to look at you. And then
it changes their whole mindset. Yeah. I love that.
It applies to everybody. It can be, it's not immune to that. Like you smile, like when you smile, I was just like, oh my God, I'm smiling too, right? Like it is contagious. Yeah. And the more that we do that, like it's an opportunity to shift that person's situation, even if it's for a moment. Be like, maybe you just made that person's day.
Yeah, and go a step further. Like sometimes you won't meet that connection, like you're trying, right? And if you actually practice this, but I've had times where it's like, man, this guy obviously is going through some stuff, and I'll try to get his attention or whatever, and it's just not happening. And so, he's obviously dealing with some stuff. Well, I'll just in my spirit just say a quick prayer for him. Lord, help him have a good day and bring some joy to him. And even though, how many people do that? You know what I mean? Just sending good energy to people. You know what I mean? And that's more for myself than anything. You know what I mean? To deflect the negative energy I'm finding from him.
Right. Well, it's your choice. That's what you're giving out to the universe, right? Because that's what you're hoping to get back. We were just talking about that. It's like what you put out there is what you truly get back. Like people say, karma's a bitch. Be like, no, karma's just an amplifier. So if you want to put good stuff out there, it eventually comes back tenfold back on you. You want to put bad stuff on there and be like, hope you can handle it because it's going to pound you. Right. So it's a choice. Again, it does come down to that. You got to be cognizant of it. And then you got to make a choice. Right. I always talk about like the difference between a reaction and a response is we get a reaction to something and it's our body's intelligence going, I have feelings about this. And then more often than not, we just run off at the mouth. That's the response part. But what if I challenge people to put a pause between those two things and see if you can stretch it out further. Sometimes it's super uncomfortable. And that's where it's just like, oh, what's going to happen next? But like, if you start doing that, you can be like, why am I feeling like, what's this actually telling me? Is there a story tied behind this? And like more often than not, like it's crazy. All of the things that trigger us is like, because of something that happened in our childhood, a story that we've told ourselves that got ingrained. And now as an adult, we're reacting to it, not knowing why, because we're too busy running off the mouth. And then we got to like pull that back and go, wow, what happened? Whereas if you learn to have that awareness of that break between the two, that's where the power comes in.
There's so many, when you're sitting there, you're so right. There's two things I want to talk about with what you just said. So the first thing is in my health coaching, there's a technique that I coach that is exactly what you're talking about. It's called stop, challenge, choose, right? So everything starts with our thought, right? Our thoughts trigger our actions. Okay. So when you're having that, whether for food, for example, you smell that bread, right? Like bread is this like thing for a lot of people, like that fresh bread. Oh my God. Right. Well, just stop, stop what you're doing, right? Challenge the thought, like what you're thinking about the bread, all this stuff. Well, okay, if I eat the bread, what's it gonna, it's gonna blow my diet. I'm gonna have more carbs in my system. It's gonna refill my glucose storage and all that stuff. Well, now you make a choice, right? So is it okay? And I'm gonna choose that, hey, I'm okay with that decision. I know it may take me a couple of days to get back into fat burn, but I'm gonna choose to enjoy life a little. Then that's fine, right? Or I'm gonna make the choice of no, it's really not worth it, and I'm gonna focus more on my health. You can take that same approach with a spouse, right? You're arguing with the wife, right? And you just stop. Okay, what's really going on here? Why is she upset? What's happening? And I'm going to choose a different response than that reflective, actionary response based on my emotions. Yeah. You know what I mean? And that's if we can get out of the emotion, right? Because that's really what triggers a lot of our negative stuff, or even good positive things too, for that matter. But is the emotion behind it. So I love that. That's really good. The other thing you mentioned was hurts and pains. Yeah. So Joe, I'll tell you a story, Jim. I'm kind of get a little, I'll open up here a little personal. I didn't think we were going to go down this road, but so the action that you're seeing on the outside is usually just the surface level, what you're seeing. Okay. My wife and I took a trip years ago to go visit her dad in Ohio. We went to this beautiful nature preserve, had a great time. Well, I'm getting ready to post some pictures on Facebook, right? And she says, oh, no, honey, don't post those. Like, I want to, I'm looking kind of sweaty and nasty. Like, I want to see what they look like first. I'm like, all right, I got you. Well, we get stuck. We're like in the middle of nowhere, right? And so it looks like I had posted the pictures because I couldn't get out of the damn app, right? It's like frozen on me. And she gets pissed. And she's like, you said you weren't going to post those. You're a freaking liar. How dare you lie to me? And Gene, I straight up, dude, I went nuts. Like 8, 9, 10 minutes. Like, how dare you call me a liar? I take good care of this family. I'm an honest man. And I work, and I was pissed. Well, about 8, 9 minutes into this tirade, I just hear this little voice, this small, still little voice inside of me. And I literally heard it. I can't describe it, but it was so soft. And it said, Kevin, why are you so angry? And I stopped and I was like, why am I so angry? And I remember, Gene, back when I was a kid, my mother, I was like 8, 9 years old, would say, you're a liar, just like your son of a bitch, no good father who left us. And you're a liar just like him. That's all you'll ever be. And I realized the reason I was angry in that moment had nothing to do with my wife. It was from the hurt of my childhood, right? And I chose in that moment to forgive my mother because look, we can only give what we have to give, Gene. If I ask you for $1,000 and you don't have $1,000, you can't give me $1,000, right? So my mom at that time in her life, all she had was brokenness and pain and hurt and stress trying to raise these 4 crazy boys, right? And so all she could give me was her hurt and her pain at that time. Yeah. And I had to make a choice and say, you know what, I'm going to forgive my mom. Well, I'll tell you what powerful happened. 2 weeks later, Gene, my wife calls me a liar again. I don't even remember what the hell we were doing. And I just looked at her and I said, okay, honey, something's obviously wrong. What's going on? Talk to me. And it was squashed. Yeah. But because I released the power of that hurt and that pain from the youth, it now no longer had a hold on me.
It's incredible, the power that you can take back. Like, that's just 2 weeks. And people are like, some people think that kind of change takes so long to happen. It happens in an instant once you get to the real source of it. Like, once you get to the source of it and like basically shine a light on it going, how big's this demon? Be like, oh, it was just the shadow. This thing's little. Give it a hug. Go, thank you for doing what you did for me, but I'm releasing you now. And you get to like move on from it. It's just like when people say they're at the end of the rope, be like, put the rope down, right? Like That's the kind of like the equivalent there is now all of a sudden you're not reflectively reacting because you're being called those names when you were 8. You're like, well, you're a grown man now going, what's really going on? How do
Yep.
we, is there a thing we need to fix? Oh yeah, let's
Well,
do
and
that.
take that, like, now that I've experienced that, Gene, now it's like, okay, when I start to feel, that anger or different things and whatever else is going on now, well, now it's like, okay, why? What's the root of this?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Now it's like there's something in my past I may not even remember. Like, we have defense mechanisms where we bury stuff,
Oh
like
yeah.
especially the big stuff, right? Well, you got to dig the root out, man. Otherwise, that weed is just going to keep growing back up,
Yeah.
And so, anytime now that I'm really feeling like that, it's like, okay, where's this really coming from? Because it's not this surface level,
Yeah.
you know.
Oh no, like it's incredible. And you talk about that defense mechanism when you hit with that, there's the asking the 5 whys, or keep asking why until you can't ask why anymore. Why is a difficult question to ask somebody, because it really can be come across like cause a lot of defenseness from it. But it's like when you find your right way to ask that why question, all you're doing is just stripping those stories off, right? Because our mind, our subconscious has just been layering them on to protect whatever that root is. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, because of this, be like, well, no, that doesn't seem right either. I did that before here. And then you keep peeling it back. And next thing you know, you're like you say, you're at the root of it. Like, don't need you anymore. Get out of my garden. And I love the garden metaphor, right? Like it's, we're here, our lives are like a garden, and it's our choice to cultivate it, right? Like I had a coach once that asked me, does the farmer grow the seeds, or do the seeds grow themselves? And it's just like, well, the farmer plants them and cultivates the right environment. The seeds already have the intelligence to do what they were going to do. If you give them the right area, they're going to blossom. You give them the wrong area, they're not going to do so well, right? And it comes right down to be like, what do you want in your garden?
Well, I think the hardest part about the garden is getting the garden started, right? When you look out at this plot of land that is just looks like crap, and there's weeds everywhere and stumps and, like, you know what I mean? Like, there's no good soil, and it's just overwhelming, right? And so what do? We do nothing. We're looking at this big giant task of creating this garden. We're like, oh hell no, I don't even know where to begin, right? Well, the key is just begin, right? Because once you get the garden the way you want it, I'll tell you a little secret. It's a hell of a lot easier to maintain it and keep it looking gorgeous than it is to get it there in the first place.
Yeah. Oh, yes. It's a preventative maintenance component of it. Is like, it's so much, you do so comparatively so little to keep the momentum going.
Yeah.
Right. And you as a health coach, like, and as, working with your clients and at all your team members and stuff too, like, how hard it is to get people to take that first step. And then all of a sudden, like, well, that wasn't so bad. I guess how many more steps is this going to take? Like, we have no idea, but if we don't keep taking them, we're never going to know.
Well, and momentum too. Like, I love that word. That's a power word of mine, right? Like, once you capture momentum, it is a force to be reckoned with. It's like a snowball that going downhill that just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Try stopping a boulder after it's gained a shitload of momentum. You're going to get squashed like a pancake.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it takes a lot less force to keep it going. So, I love that.
That's I wasn't sure where our conversation was going to go, but I'm loving where it's going, honestly. Like, there's already been so many gems that have dropped out of this from you already, Kevin. And like I said earlier, part of the purpose of this is I truly believe success leaves clues, and being able to share some of these. And thank you for sharing, like getting vulnerable and sharing that story. Like, I have similar stories, and we all have similar stories where we've gone like ballistic, and then you look back at it going, well, I was a bit of an asshole. What the hell was going on there, right? And being able to have that awareness in that moment to start to dig at it, going, I don't want to do this anymore. So why did I do this to begin with?
A lot of it, I think, like for me, I mean, I'm sure it's different for everybody, right? But we just as we grow and we get older, we just become wiser, right? And when we're younger, we really like try to hide like all of our imperfections, and we don't want people to see this vulnerable, screwed up Kevin, right? Like we want to come across and all this stuff. Now I'm at the point where it's like, take me or leave me. I don't care. Like, you're not going to have an impact on my life, but I'm going to work to get better every day, and I'm going to face these demons and do what I have to do to be the best I can be.
As soon as you're saying that, I'm just like, well, there's got to be some metaphor around like using a Snapchat filter versus no filter in life, right? Be like, let's put the filter on that removes all the blemishes, makes us look great. It's fake as hell, but like, doesn't it look great for my Instagram fame for a moment, right? Versus,
but do you want true joy? Like,
oh, now we're getting to it.
Like, okay, so happiness, like, it's just crazy. I was thinking about this the other day, Gene. Like, some people are happy when they get a fancy car, right? Some people are happy when they get that new job. Some people are, I mean, everybody's got a different definition of what makes them happy. But I think if you get to the root of it, man, like, look, do you have food? do you have water? Yeah. And do you have a roof over your head? And do you have love in your life? Like, for me, like, if I've got those things, like, dude, I'm pretty happy.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? And when you strip away all the superficial bull crap that's not going to be there anyway, that you can really just find true happiness no matter, I've been happy. I've made a lot of money and I've been damn near bankrupt and I've been, happy. I'm not going to let that define me. I think that one of the best things we can do, a tool that I've been doing lately, reverse engineering is powerful, right? If you think about Tesla, they didn't invent the car, but they've reversed engineered it all the way down and rebuilt it to this pretty badass vehicle. Okay. Yeah. I mean, they're pretty badass.
They're pretty cool.
So, right. So why don't we do that with our lives? Like, I was really, journaling on this the other day, and, I went to my deathbed. I went to my funeral, and what are they saying about me? What is my legacy? What is the impact I've made? How many people's lives have I touched? What, you know what I mean? When I reverse engineer and then bring it back decade after decade to my current reality, like, what are the things I need to do along the way to make that end result where I want it to be? And reverse engineering our lives, I think, if more people did that, we'd realize we need to kick it into high gear, man.
Oh, yeah. Well, if we're going to talk about high gear, you've propped up this morning routine. So if you're going to have joy, you're going to get your day going. Part of what I talk about and work with people is like, do you enjoy getting out of bed in the morning? Are you excited about getting out of bed in the morning? How do you go about that, Kevin?
Yeah. So the first thing is, when I got healthy and lost 75 pounds, Gene, one of the beautiful things that happened to me is I got to join the No Alarm Clock Needed Club. Okay. My body naturally wakes me up every morning between 5 o'clock and 5:15. Can't explain it. I haven't used an alarm clock now in 6 months. But, my morning routine is it's like a ritual. So I will get up. The very first thing I do is make my bed. Just wake up, and I've got good energy. Like, I used to have brain fog, and it would just take me an hour to wake up. Like, I don't have that anymore now that I'm healthy. Okay. Yeah. And I'm putting good food in my body. So I'm up and I'm awake, right? And I'm going to bed at a decent time. So I make my bed, right? I'll go downstairs and I'll get the pot of coffee going. It takes exactly 8 minutes for my coffee to brew. While it's brewing, I'm stretching. Okay. I'm getting my body loosened up, stuff like that. As soon as that's on, I've got, there's a couple of podcasts that are every morning that I listen to that are each about 5 minutes. Right. And I'll get that in me. And then after those are done, I'll spend usually about 20 minutes, in the Word. I'm a believer in Christ. And so, I try to get the Word in me early, because look, this world we live in, dude, is a messed up place. Okay. There's a lot of bad crap. Just watch the news for 5 minutes, right?
Oh, yeah.
I don't watch the news at all anymore. Literally. I don't do any news or anything. So anyway, so I spend literally about 30 minutes, right, after I've stretched of podcast and getting the Word in me, Then I spend another 30 minutes of actually journaling, right? On what my 30 minutes of getting in me, right? Then I 30 minutes write down, what I got out of it. All right. Then after that, I take a brief walk around the block, literally like a 10-minute walk, brisk walk, just get the heart rate up, come back, shower, get dressed. And then after that, I'm pretty much in work mode, right? And I'm starting to do stuff for the office and things like that. But what I'll tell you is, when I get the blood, first of all, flowing and circulating in my body with those stretches, it just activates things in your brain, right? When that blood is flowing and you just get crystal clear on your thinking, you know what I mean? Stretching for me I love it. I mean, it's something I've recently in the last 6 months started doing daily. And then just getting that routine of every single morning, don't focus on your job. Don't focus on your kids. Don't focus on your wife. Focus on you, right? Because if you are the best you that you can be, you're only going to be better for them. It's actually selfish to not do that. Like if you're not getting enough sleep, if you're not putting, good books in you and good audios and, podcasts like yours, Gene, right? and stuff like that. Like if you're not doing that, you're not doing the work on yourself, you're not going to be the best husband, to your father and all that stuff,
Oh, we are so aligned on so many things. Like this is, I love it. I talk about the same concept about serving from your saucer, right? So like, you're not filling up your own internal cup. So many people, it's almost like they take their cup, pour it upside down and drain it for everybody else and then go, why is there nothing left for me? Well, flip it up.
Love that.
And when it hits that saucer, and they get the best of you, just like you're saying, is like put that work in. We go back to the garden. Yeah, you're looking around going, there's stumps, there's logs, like there must have been a dumpster fire here at one point. Be like, but you can clean all that up. And it takes a lot less time than you think. It does take discipline and does take showing up and does take, stop, challenge, choose. Again, like all these things just keep showing up. Like they're simple, but they work everywhere.
Right. Yeah.
Right. The simple part is the not simple part is making the choice sometimes because you're like, well, what's holding me back? Maybe that's not, maybe I'm asking that because I'm a coach. What's holding you back is like, they're not even maybe processing that part, just going, this is what feels comfortable. Right. Yeah. And they just want it easy, but that's almost like disease for me. Like when they're sitting in that comfort zone, they're getting disease filled because it's actually not easy. Long term is like sitting around and doing all the easy stuff up front makes for a really hard life. It's the same thing about that momentum. It's like, yeah, it takes a lot to push that boulder down the hill. Once it's going, look out. Like it's going to take something huge to stop it.
Well, yeah, and I think again, one of the just in the society we live in, man, there's just so many distractions, like everywhere you look, right? Whether it's social media or your job's calling you doing this, that, and the other. You got kids, right? You're running to soccer practice and all this crap. Like it's like, where do we make time for us and all that? Well, you have to get focused. So what I do, I have a ritual that I do every single Sunday, and I set up my week. So it's really, really simple. If you get a piece of paper, just draw a big cross on it, right? You make 4 quadrants, okay? So I've got at the top of it what my divine purpose in life is, right? And this took a lot of time for me to, weeks and weeks and weeks of okay, I need one sentence that's my defined purpose of why I am on this earth, what I was meant to do, right? And then very simple from there, I have these different quadrants, okay? And I'll have different categories that I want to tackle, whether, finances, family, whatever they may be. All right. And as things start to come across, my path, they're going to go into one of my 3 sections for the week. So maybe this week I have, I want to increase my finances, right? So, okay, I'm going to put a little bit into savings. I'm not going to eat out here. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And I've got some financial goals. Now, all of these little goals are aligning with my ultimate purpose in life. Right. Family. Okay. I haven't spent much time with mom lately, right? I need to see mom, call mom, see how she's doing. Hey, maybe I want to take the wife on a date and just let her know I love her, right? Or the kids. So these are aligned again with my ultimate purpose in life. Okay, everything's got to align with that. And you've got all these categories. Well, you're going to have stuff that comes across. I'll give you a great example. One week, finances was on my list. Okay, and it was to save, some money and work on my finances. Well, I had a buddy call me, and he says, "Hey, man, I just developed this whole new system for call centers. You got to fly out here and check it out. Like you're gonna freak out on this." And I'm like, "Okay, well, flying out to Detroit, right? Getting a hotel, spending food, eating out, and all this stuff. Is that aligning with me saving money this week? No, it's not, but it would help with my call center so I could justify it." Well, that fourth box, that's going to go in the miscellaneous section, right? It's not a bad thing. Maybe I can do a Zoom with them or something else, but it's not aligning with my 3 weekly goals. And everything that comes across my desk for the week, I look and see if it's in one of my 3 categories. If it's not in one of my categories, it goes into that miscellaneous box in the corner, and I'm not going to do it. I'm going to have razor sharp focus on this week's goals and what it is I want to accomplish, and not be like that horse with the blinders, and not allow things to get me off track. I don't know if I explained that in a way that makes sense, but it's a powerful tool I've been using.
So as I'm hearing that, so the 3 quadrants that you focus on potentially change Sunday, right? So that as you're going through it, you're working on it, going, okay, what's important this week to move, and then you allow yourself to the things that fall into that are where you're going to focus, and then outside of that, you get moving from there. Do you capture the other stuff that comes up and like create more or less like a backlog for it to go? Oh, hey, here's all the things that have been asked of me. Now is that how you shape your weekly focus?
Yeah. So that's a great question. So absolutely I do. So 2 weeks ago, family was on the list, right? Well, I had friends that reached out that hadn't seen me that really wanted to spend time with me. Friends are important too, right? Well, they weren't in the category. So I had to tell them, hey, I can't do it this week. I got too much going on, right? Well, then the next week, the next Sunday night when I was, sitting down relaxing, and I looked at what came into that miscellaneous quadrant, I had 2 friends that reached out. So that week I said, okay, I'm going to put friends on the list this week.
Yeah.
Right. And so they went in there.
Nice. I think that's great. I hope, that helps somebody, because like being able to have that structure so many times, you hear people like, oh, just get some focus. You just gave them a blueprint on how to do that. Right. Like that's super powerful. I've just realized we're at 43 minutes. And like I said, at the start, like when we were doing our preamble, that this time flies by. So I want to be respectful of your time, Kevin. I said I have one question that I always ask at the end. So I think it's time for that now is, if you could go back 10 years, what would be that one piece of advice you would give yourself?
Yeah. So work harder on yourself than you do your job. Your income very rarely exceeds personal development. Okay. If you put more time on becoming a better you, Gene, your income will rise right along with it. So where your joy, your happiness, your free time, and everything else.
I 100% agree with that. And it shows up all the time, right? Like what's the common denominator in the showing up to work, showing up in your relationships, showing up to your friends? It's you.
Yeah, amen.
And if you're not bringing the best you, well, why not? Why not?
You're being selfish. Yeah.
You're being a selfish. You're being an asshole, right? I actually have up on here is like you're being on one of my stickies to the side here is like by not showing up, you're being a selfish asshole because you're removing an opportunity for somebody to have a really great, experience with you. You're removing that opportunity to when you see that person standing in the corner to smile at them or to say the prayer to give them to put that out there. You're just removing all those opportunities, and like, what a shame! What a shame! The world needs more of us showing up as our best, or at least going, I'm going to be at least 1% better than I was yesterday.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Yeah, compound it, man. That's the thing. Don't try to get 20, 30% better. Get a half, not even 1%, Gene. Half of a percent, brother. Half of a percent better every single day. Anybody can do that. And then you look up in 30, 60, 90 days, you're 5-10% better.
Oh yeah. And then it compounds. Like it is the best example of compound interest that there is out there, right? Like, and I go with that 1%, and you can do the 0.5%. Like, it doesn't need a lot. You just needs to do it every day.
Yep.
And so it really starts to strip away the excuse of I don't have time. Bullshit. You're choosing not to make time. You're choosing to watch the news. You're choosing to do the things that are bringing you into dis-ease as it is. Like, those are choices, and you want to live with them, fine. And you want to keep doing it. Don't bitch about it then.
Yeah.
But there is an opportunity that you can start to make those movements forward.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. We make a joke, in the health coaching world, like being fat is hard, right? Getting healthy is hard. Choose your hard.
Yeah. Well, it's true, right? Like, it's you can either do the hard now or the hard later on, and the later on you're paying for it. It's like you're going into, it's almost like a life debt by putting off all those things that you were meant to do, to show up as, is like you're going to pay for it, and it's going to take so much longer to get your ass out of debt.
Yep, absolutely. All right, brother. Well, this has been fun, man. I really enjoyed it. I'm honored and thankful that you had me on here, and I hope this helps somebody in life, man.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Kevin. I'm as well very honored to have you on, and this was a great conversation. I suspect it's not going to be our last. So have yourself a great day, and everybody else. This has been another episode of Livecast Conversations with. I'm Gene, and we'll see you next week.